Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name is Lorene. Today I'm going to talk to you about my two book club choices, and one was from the book club from the store Woozles. I'll link that in the doobly-doo below. And this is a gang of ladies, mostly, who like to read young adult fiction. A lot of them are librarians, but others are not, like me. And the choice for November was Cinderella is Dead by Kalynn Bayron. This is about a community that's been isolated after some kind of, war between kingdoms. And this fairy tale of Cinderella is the principal book. And they've taken it to be sort of the equivalent of the Constitution. It's not a religious, they're not religiously bowing before the icon of Cinderella. It's more just the story of Cinderella is taken as fact and aspirational. So there is a king who has a demand that every year there are young women attending a ball. He's not always on the lookout for a wife, but that's sort of the background. Women who, they're young girls, they're 16, who have to attend the ball, and there are other men in the community who are looking for wives, anywhere from, the local lord up the road to the butcher. So if the women attend 3 balls and they're not chosen, then something other happens to them. So out of this kind of weird thing that's happening, we get Silvia, who's 16-year-old and has just been in denial the whole way through. Comes time for her ball. Hello. Comes time for her first ball, and she still hasn't got a grip on what things are going on. She's impulsively rebellious, and she gets herself into quite a muddle. Things just start to go wrong, and she's on the lam. She bumps into someone else who is a descendant of the original Cinderella, and they decide that they've got to kill the king. And so it's just, I don't know. There's some interesting loops in the plot. I will give the plot line credit, but the characters were just not believable. Silvia just was never, I just never got on to her. She was just kind of random in her thinking processes, and in the solving of how to kill the king, she was not even really there. Other characters come in, a wicked witch. I just forgot whatever happened. I kind of was dreading it going in because, for one thing, what they've got here in the picture is a beautiful young lady of color in a beautiful dress, and she's about to enter the wicked woods, and so it sets you up for this, you're thinking, oh, something really, vital is going to happen with this Cinderella story. And this lovely lady who's portrayed on the front, we never really engage. I mean, the fact that she's a lady of color, it's not like she's out of, I guess the color just isn't an issue. And so I just thought we were going to be seeing something that was a bit different in terms of her cultural approach to the Cinderella tale. Maybe they had a different view on it. It was just a lot of nothing. So I bumped into one of the other fellow book clubbers when I was preparing to read this, and she said, yeah, I wasn't looking forward to this too, but I had to do a mental shake-up. And so I tried to do a mental shake-up and approach it with a bit more, I don't know what's the word, not so much judgmental. Cinderella as a tale never really appealed to me. It's just, the whole concept just seemed kind of, I don't know, not there. The second book that we chose, which opposite of Always, we're actually talking about that tomorrow night. Book club is happening after I talk to you about this. And it's about a book, 2 teenagers. One is just a senior in high school, the other one is a first year in university. And they come together at a party. And if you've seen the movie Groundhog Day, you've read the book. The girl has some sort of mysterious disease. The boy finally, and then she dies in the first third of the book. And then the boy keeps he has some sort of an accident. Is he unconscious? Isn't he unconscious? But he keeps reliving the last 2-3 weeks of his life, and he's attempting to rescue the girl. Well, yeah, that's the end of the story. It just keeps going on, and I wasn't there for it. The concept's good as a movie, but you know, if you're going to tell a retale, Thomas King has a couple of books where he retells the tale, and each time there's something different, and there's a purpose for it being different. There is, it responds to the situation so that the message is appropriate to the lesson that the person repeating the story experiences. That's not happening here. It's basically just kind of an ongoing repetition until he finally figures out at such and such a minute he has to do this, and such and such a minute he has to do that. And then at the tail end, just after all that endurance, not even really sure whether he was successful. And it's not a cliffhanger because you've been there 17 times. So yeah, no, I'm going to go to the book club. I'm going to listen. I might make a sarcastic remark, but I think I mostly will just be quiet. My other book club, the one that's, I don't know what to call it anymore, the old ladies book club, I'm not sure. The one that's been going on for ages. We chose Mexican Gothic, and that is by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I was so looking forward to this book. This was on my, what they call TBR, expected 5-star reads. And it actually met my expectations. The group didn't love it as much as I did. I think partly because last year, my son's girlfriend, Ryan, she got me onto reading Gothic. So we started with Dracula, which I didn't finish, and Northanger Abbey, which I did finish. And I wasn't entirely loving what I was reading. So she was kind of giving me pep talks along the way. So then I read Rebecca, Daphne du Maurier, and I had seen the movie and I loved that movie. The book was pretty good too. And so I was starting to get a hang of what modern Gothic was all about. And then I read Shirley Jackson's We Have Always Lived in the Castle, and it clicked for me. I thought, oh, okay, I finally understand the method to the plot development and so forth. And so it helped me get through the first part of this book because it's a whole lot of nothing. You're kind of getting to know the landscape and get to know the characters, and you understand that there's some kind of tension going on, but it's not 100% clear. Could be this, could be that. And the background characters you have to build up the creep. It's sort of the opposite of comedy in that, comedy has so much to do with timing, but creep has to do so much with pattern. You have, is that person really creepy, or was just a one-off weird thing that they did? So they have to build their frowning face or their obsession about silence or whatever the case. So the first third, there's not much happening. This middle third, you're getting to know what the dilemma is, and you're getting to see how the characters interact with that dilemma, and it's in their best interest to keep the dilemma going. They don't want a resolution. And then whoever the victims are of course trying to get free of whatever the tragedy is, whether it's Dracula or poison or what have you. So that's what's happening in the third part of this book. And I started to really love it in the second and third. And I would say that the last third was really tricky. Things kept happening. There was double reversals and a return, and then there was this kind of, honestly, this is a book that is worth reading if you like clever plot lines and unexpected things. And there are no red herrings, which I think in some of the other books you think, oh, that's going to be the pivot point that this plot works on. No, we don't have any of those kind of clues. And it's a little bit of a mystery because it's a book that takes you through generations. So what's happened to prior women in other earlier generations is part of the question. So how does that all resolve? And then the ending is kaboom. So not the last 5 pages, but you know, the part that gets you to the last 5 pages is kaboom. So yeah, I haven't told you anything about the plot, and that's because it's kind of hard to without giving it all away. But we've got Naomi, who's a Mexican socialite. She is in university, and her family feels that she's very frivolous between her socializing and her changing things up at university, and just very curious, intellectual woman who's just beginning to be part of that generation in the sort of 50s, Mexican 1950s, that is given the opportunity to have an education. So she's exploring the boundaries. It's not necessarily frivolous as much as discovery. I think the other part that was interesting is she has a cousin, Catalina? Let me think now. Yeah. Anyhow, the cousin, it's not written down here, has gone off to be married with somebody who seems very debonair and likable, and Catriona has been fascinated by fairy tales all of her life. So he's the Prince Charming. They've got this big manor up in the mountains that was built on the proceedings of silver mining. So there's sort of that little bit of a Beauty and the Beast piece, sort of crazy manor house that's falling to pieces, debonair, prince-like guy, poor peasants below that died while the mine was being operated on. So that's one of the storylines. He's got his family there, and they are peculiar. So Naomi responds to a letter from Catriona about things she's losing her mind. There are ghosts in the walls. So Catriona has managed to seek help. Naomi thinks that she's a strong enough woman that she can accomplish this. Her dad's promised her that if she gets successful with this task, she can do whatever she likes as far as university goes and go on to do her master's or whatever she likes. So she's really invested in getting her cousin out of there. And she is anyways, because they're very affectionate about each other. So Virgil, the husband, the sort of Prince Charming fellow, has a cousin, Frances, who's kind of, in comparison, rather weak looking and ineffective. And so you get these 4, there's some really interesting dynamics that happen. One of the mums is still alive, and she is just kind of combination of Nurse Cratchit from the Cuckoo's Nest and a zombie. And just weird stuff happening in the house. And some outsiders attempt to help, but they are effectively pushed back. And if I tell you any more, I'm really just going to give it away, because one of the delights of this book was the surprises. You knew something was coming, but I couldn't exactly predict what. And in fact, the person who was the evil person might not have been the evil person. So I thought it was good. My group didn't love Gothic. I think most of them, when they didn't like it, they kind of transferred themselves into thinking of postmodern feminism, because Naomi is what's that word? Burgeoning. She's coming out as a strong female character. There was quite a lot of discussion around the symbolism of a snake, and so we ended up getting more into the metaphorical journey of the book, which I really don't believe that the authors themselves set that up for the readers. That might be something they're doing on their own to entertain themselves while they're writing and to make it a deeper, darker novel, but I'm not sure that this reading group, sort of 16 to, I'd say this would be a good book for adults too. But anyhow, the sort of target audience is not really looking for that kind of, what would you call it, layers. I think they want a good story and they want some detail and so forth, but whether it's a postmodernist, feminist, Marxist kind of thing, I don't think so. Anyhow, that's just the nature of my book club, is that we quite often delve into the psychology and the politics and all that kind of business. So it might be that we're reading the wrong kind of books. I sometimes wonder about that as I listen to the discussion. It's like maybe we ought to be reading more Maya Angelou or something. Those are the 3 books for book clubs this month, and I would say that of them all, of the whole year, I'm going to say that Mexican Gothic was my favorite of all that's been read And I'm really glad that Ryan introduced me to the Gothic, because there's lots more out there. Oh, I forgot to mention that the house is haunted. Like, that's just a really cool element too. Not so much that the house is haunted, but the house is an entity. So, and that's even more creepy. So, that's it for me. I hope all your reading dreams and desires and adventures continue to come true, and I'll see you next time. Bye.